And good morning, everyone. And I'm very pleased to be here this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to be part of your meeting and discuss with you the proposed citrus nursery stock rule, and most importantly, have your thoughts and your feedback as to regarding the proposed rule, and just have the conversation about safeguarding the U.S. citrus industry, and certainly the California citrus industry is a major part of the U.S. citrus industry, and the nursery stock sector is the foundation in which the citrus industry is based. So I'm really look forward to having the conversation this morning and beyond. Last couple of days, I've been in Colorado, Denver, Colorado, where the National Plan Board meeting is being held. And one of the major topics that was discussed yesterday is citrus health and some of the invasive pests and diseases that we continue to deal with. And I noticed this morning as I was looking at my slide there, I said, Ontario, Colorado, and it's not, of course it's not, so I apologize about that. It's Ontario, California, but it came from the meeting I had yesterday. So as Gary said, to kind of help organizing my thoughts this morning, figured to kind of cover briefly a bit of information about the U.S. citrus industry, the economic importance of the U.S. citrus industry, and also touch briefly on the current situation of the Asian citrus psyllid and HIV in the United States and perhaps other parts of the world, and our short-term strategy. And when I say our, it's collectively. It's not a government strategy. It is the industry. It is state, federal, based on input from subject matter experts as we try to, again, safeguard our interest here in the United States. Talk a little bit about the citrus nursery stock interim rule. And this rule was published in April 27th, and we asked for comments. I think the comments period closed on July 27th, but does not necessarily mean that we don't receive additional suggestions to keep improving upon the system that we are proposing. And just touch on the long-term strategy. Yesterday we had this discussion, again with the National Plan Board, trying to highlight the economic importance of the citrus industry. And again, based on the most current information, Florida has about 538,000 acres. The acreage in Florida dropped from 800,000 to 538,000. There's about 120,000 acres of abandoned groves in Florida, primarily because of citrus pests and diseases. California, 253,000. Texas, 27,000. Arizona, nearly 22,000. And then Alabama and Louisiana with 400. And yesterday I was corrected. Louisiana had 800 acres, not 316. The economic value of the citrus industry in the United States is pretty significant given the current economic situation that we are experiencing. $4.7 billion in annual wage income. This is across the board. That's a lot of money. The total economic impact through wholesalers, retailers, and then other associated industries has an impact of $12.3 billion in the U.S. economy. And the citrus industry employs 110,000 people across the United States. So this is significant and important, beside all the other benefits that we enjoy from citrus in general. So what's the problem? A problem is we've been inundated with pests and diseases that are quite impactful of the citrus industry. And starting with the HLB and then citrus canker, citrus black spot, sweet orange scab, just to name a few. And Florida, just since Florida has all those 4 organisms, Florida loses approximately $300 million annually. Growers are spending $500 per acre to control these pests. $500 per acre. And the presence of those diseases has increased the cost of production by 40%. The only reason that the Florida industry is surviving today is because prices are up. But if you go back to normal average citrus prices, it will be very challenging to sustain citrus industry in such competitive market. So, citrus HLB or Hanglong bean is translated to yellow dragon in Chinese. It's basically caused by bacteria, Liberbacter asiaticus, at least here in the United States, we think. And the disease, the bacteria is spread by vector, Asian citrus psyllid. So just to give you an example, you have basically 2 leaves there. One is healthy, one is exhibiting symptoms. And what the bacteria does is basically blocks the phloem and restricting the movement of nutrients throughout the tree, or in other words, end up choking the tree to death. And the symptoms you see there, including the blotchy, mottling leaves, yellowing coloration of the leaves, and ultimately have a small lopsided green fruit bitter that you can't market. And that's basically what this disease does. Unfortunately, currently, as Mary Lou Bullock and others that have been working, dedicating their life for this disease, there's no cure currently. And subject matter experts, researchers are working trying to find cure, but we do not have cure right now. And so we have a citrus tree like this. I don't know if you can see it back there, but you have this yellowing color, and then eventually this tree will die. Here's citrus orchard that's been destroyed by HLB. Total destruction in a matter of short period of time, ranging from 1 to 3 years. The entire orchard was destroyed. The challenge with HLB is that has this latency phenomenon where you cannot detect it. So you may look at a tree that appears to be healthy, and a couple of months later you find out that it is HLB positive, and then a few months later this tree is dead. So it happens that quickly, and so it's a very challenge in terms of the early detection, control, and try to take the appropriate actions to deal with this disease. The Asian citrus psyllids is the primary vector, and certainly the disease can be spread through other means. Grafting is another way, but Psilis is the primary vector. And basically, the disease can be transmitted, or the bacteria can be transmitted from an infected tree to healthy tree through either the adults or the nymphs. So, what's going on with HLB around the world? Where we've been, where we are, and where we think we're headed with this disease. And very briefly, there are two predominant strains of HLB. One is Asian, and the other one is African. There's also one that are calling American, but it's not as wide distributed as the other two. So again, in China, this disease was reported first in China in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And shortly thereafter, the disease was widespread throughout Asia. We've known all along that this disease has been present in Asia for many years. Then, about 1928 or so, this HLB was also discovered in South Africa. At that time, there was distinction made between this particular strain and the Asian. This is the African. And shortly thereafter, this disease starts spreading in other countries in Africa. Then you see the Arabian Peninsula, where you have both the Asian as well as the African HLB. Then in 2004, Brazil reported another strain of HLB, which is the American HLB, and then shortly thereafter, they also reported the Asian HLB. And they found in 2004, and the disease started spreading throughout citrus production area in Brazil. Then Florida, in 2005, HLB, Asian HLB was found in 2005 in Florida. And again, it's a matter of a few months, this disease was spreading quite rapidly. And now it's all over Florida. And then in 2006, the disease was reported in Cuba. This is the best possible report that we were able to find. Whether this pest or this disease existed prior to 2005 or not, we don't know. But this is the official report. Then in 2008, it was reported in the Dominican Republic. And then in 2009, it was reported in the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. And shortly thereafter, it was also reported in Jalisco, Nayarit, and Quanto Roo, Mexico. But also was found in Belize and Honduras at the same time. In 2010, it was also reported in Guatemala and Nicaragua, and as well as the state of Colima, Mexico. In 2010 also was reported in Campeche and Sinaloa, Mexico. 2011, the disease was reported in Costa Rica and Jamaica. Looking at this picture, you can see a trend. And the trend is that, again, the disease was found in Brazil and started to find its way to the north. And it's headed this way, based on this trend. And it's, quite disconcerting when you see this kind of picture and see that this devastating disease is coming our way. We see what's happened in Florida, and I'll share a couple of things with you. But this is what's going on with this HLB. The other thing, too, that's kind of, you look at it and reflect on it and can't help it but become concerned, is that the time frame This is happening quite rapidly, so quickly. So, and Mexico is struggling, quite frankly. Yesterday, Dr. Javier Trujillo, the head of Seneca in Mexico, reported the following. And this is, economically, it's not appealing to Mexico, but they have no choice. So what they are doing in Mexico is actually providing assistance to the growers to combat this disease. And one of the things that they are proposing now to do is to help growers to shift their production system from citrus to other cropping systems, such as sugarcane. And the government is providing financial assistance to help growers make those decisions. That's what they are dealing with right now in Mexico. They're trying to protect their citrus industry. It's their major crop system in Mexico, but it is very complicated and very difficult given the fact that we have no cure for this disease. This picture, and I hope you can see it from back there, this picture is from Brazil. It was reported we had a meeting July 2011, last month. And they presented this picture showing destruction of citrus groves and reported this information. Since HLP detection in Brazil, 2004, they ended up removing a total of 9.7 million trees, infected trees. They had no choice but removing 9.7 million trees. That's what this disease is doing in Brazil. So, what do we do here in the United States? How do we deal with this? Here's a pest disease coming our way, and which we have no cure. Technology is not here yet to help us deal with this disease. The citrus industry is an important part of the American economy, and so we have to figure out a way to deal with this. And this is where we sat down, engaging the citrus industry from across the board, food production, nursery production, and subject matter experts, research community, university systems, and started engaging in conversation, discussion. I remember coming out to California about a year and a half ago, and Mary Lou and Tid Batkin and folks in CDFA took me under the wing and started talking about possibilities, some of the challenges, some of the opportunities, some of the pitfalls, and tried to come up with a strategy to deal with this. And the one thing that we obviously identified is we have to partner. We have to be partnership and have a solid way of communicating, coordinating, leveraging resources, pull everything we've got to deal with this disease in the most effective and practical manner. And so, again, that's the idea, is bringing everybody, but not only within our borders, but also interact with our international partners, particularly Mexico, Belize, and some of the Caribbean nations. So if we can stop the disease from coming our way, we will be that much more effective in dealing with this disease. So we started going to work based on this partnership model. And again, I can spend a substantial amount of time telling you all the entities, people that have been participating, taking critical role in dealing with this HLB citrus health issues. But you can see here, university systems, State Department of Agriculture, citrus industry. And the one thing that also I'd like to emphasize is that the typical role of government, industry is government would go out and do certain things, and the industry would do practices and groves and all that. Well, in this case, actually, the industry is taking even unprecedented role. You see that the Citrus Research Board here in California, they have accredited laboratory. They do a lot of diagnostics. That is, in the past, used to be a government CDFA or APHIS or ARS or university function. Actually, the industry is investing quite a bit in doing so. The Florida Research Foundation, which is another industry group, investing a lot of money also in research. So everybody's really pulling their resources to get us moving forward dealing with this disease. So the guiding principles based on the discussion amongst all the entities. One is that understand HLB is not just one of the most devastating pests or diseases. It is the most devastating disease. It will not only impact the industry economically, no, it will take it out. It will take out the industry. So that's basically a very clear, vivid message to see and understand as we witness that's going on in Florida and Brazil and other countries. Asian citrus psyllid suppression is a key short-term objective. If we can stop the spread of Asian citrus psyllids from areas where it is currently present and prevent it from moving to citrus production area, maybe we can slow the spread of HLB. So that's one of the short-term objectives that the community has identified for the program. National coordination on research. Obviously, it's important. Long-term solutions will come through research. And so USDA, federal, state, university, private, all researchers have got to work together in a coordinated fashion so it will be as effective in identifying tools as possible. One of the areas that were identified is to protect the foundation, protect nursery stock. If the nursery stock system get impacted by HLB, then you lose the whole system. And therefore, discussion regarding having rules in place that are effective, efficient, but yet practical to safeguard the nursery stock system. And hence the conversation we're having this morning. Then we also need to work on the long-term solutions to deal with this. If we can come up with a curative tool, then that will be the ultimate goal. Increase public awareness and outreach, and you all do an outstanding job on that. I think the citrus industry, being on TV, radio, meetings, and CDFA, and I think everybody's doing a really good job in conveying the word about the potential impact of HLB. I mentioned in Florida we have, I think, 108, 112,000 acres of abandoned groves. What do we do with those? Those groves that simply the growers couldn't sustain anymore. They walked away from. And those groves are infected and continue to serve as a reservoir for HLB and Asian citrus psyllids and other pests to the rest of the production system. It's a huge challenge in Florida. How do you control Asian citrus psyllids in urban settings? And I think we have our share of challenges here in California. And Nick Kondo and Susan McCarthy from CDFA can tell you. It's not easy to go out there in Los Angeles and walk from one house to another and ask people to go in there and treat for Asian citrus psyllids. And then work with Mexico and Belize. So this map here, the color kind of differently a bit, but Again, those are the 4 major citrus producing states. The red color signifies areas where ACP is present. Started in 1998 in Florida, and then was found in Texas in 2001. And then 2008 was found in Southern California, Louisiana, as well as South Carolina and Georgia. And then most recently in southwest Arizona, Yuma County, Arizona in 2009. The green signifies areas where HLB is currently present. Again, studied in Florida in 2005, and within a year or so was widespread throughout Florida. And then in Louisiana, in a very small area, 2008. And then in Georgia and South Carolina, again, urban areas in 2009. Fortunately, we haven't found any new detections of citrus green since 2009. So to achieve our short-term strategy, and I'm not going to go through the whole country, but just give you a glimpse of what's currently going on in California, and in contrast, what's going on in Florida. Okay? So the short-term strategy that the community has identified is to prevent or slow the spread of Asian citrus psyllids and HLB from infested areas to to healthy areas, and suppressing ACP, basically. Tactics: early detection, rapid response, and area-wide pest management of Asian citrus psyllids. Safeguarding, regulatory, and safeguarding systems, and communication and outreach. So in California, and Susan McCarthy would tell you, a lot of work being done between CDFA, APHIS, and the industry, trapping throughout California, about 47,000 traps being inspected routinely. A lot of effort. A lot of survey inspections, 6,000 visual inspections, tissue samples, 15,000. So I think, folks, you're all doing a really good job in staying on top of it to the best of our ability. Treatment, basically once ACP is found, then the criteria being used here is to treat all host materials within 400 meters from the detection. And to date, over 50,000 sites have been treated. Arizona is doing the same thing as California, basically. So how is it going? What is the outcome so far? We're making some progress in some areas, and we have challenges in other areas. This map here shows, by the way, we're having the same program, identical program across the border in Tijuana and Baja California in Mexico. And again, that's the cooperative nature of this program. These dots are indicating the Asian citrus psyllids finds starting in 2009. And you see in Yuma, Arizona right there, and then here's Baja California. And then, of course, here's Imperial County, San Diego, and all the way to San Angelo. Los Angeles. So 2009, and then 2010, see some difference in there, and then 2011 so far. So the psyllids disappeared in Yuma, so that's good. The numbers decreased significantly in Baja California, San Diego, and Imperial counties. But there appeared to be a shift. Some population, some increasing a bit in Los Angeles. So these are the progress, challenges, but we're in the right direction in terms of trying to suppress Asian citrus psyllids. Florida, on the other hand, I want you to look at this picture. right here. This is real. And I think probably some of you here in the room have been to Florida and seen this. When a grower will go to their orchards and remove trees and burn them because of HLB. Okay? I think we're making progress there. We're doing some things to help them sustain this problem, but it's extremely costly. Again, $500 or so per acre. So quarantine, currently Florida, Georgia, quarantine for HLB, and then you have the entire states of Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and portions of Florida, California, and Arizona are quarantined for Asian citrus psyllids. So let's talk a little bit about citrus nursery stock. The whole idea about the proposed rule for the Asian citrus psyllid quarantine requirement is to help safeguard the nursery industry from HLB. And I'm going to focus on ACP here, but I want to make sure that we have time for questions. So the focus is going to be in Asian citrus psyllids, since this is what you are interested in the most. First of all, clean stock program sourcing material. And that is one of the requirements based on feedback and input from subject matter experts as to how you safeguard the nursery industry against HLB. And so there we say APHIS approved state certified clean stock program. This is where we work with you all in CDFA and make sure that we have healthy system in place. Materials must, nursery stock must use source material that is shoot tip grafted and undergone thermotherapy, tested, inspected, and found free from graft, transferable pathogens, and past of quarantine significance. So basically, we need to have a solid foundation plants that are free from pests and diseases to make sure that we don't have a problem down the chain. Then for the Asian citrus psyllids, with respect to facility itself, this is, quite frankly, we struggle with that. And I must tell you, we can ask Don Dillon and Roger Smith, who participated in nursery industry grower working group, working with their peers from other states and with APHIS and other regulatory officials to come up with a strategy that is practical, make common sense, but also safeguard the industry. It's not easy. It has to balance. And so instead of sitting down and giving you exactly how the walls should be built, the exact specifications, I think what we ended up doing is that relying on your expertise and make this a performance-based type of strategy, as opposed to giving you exactly how every bit of the facility should look like. But we kind of came up with overarching criteria. So citrus nursery stock must be grown in a pest exclusionary screen house that is designed to prevent the penetration of pests and diseases, especially Asian citrus psyllids. And when we talked about that, we ended up coming up with the criteria in terms of the screen size, that size that would exclude melon or cotton aphid penetration. So that's basically the one criteria that we came up with. Then each facility must have a buffer, just a little bit of separation between it and another host material. Initially, we came up with a mile distance, and then, of course, we heard very quickly from the industry working group that's not practical. Okay, so we talked about half mile. And by the way, there are these restrictions in Florida today. The state came up with some requirements, 1 mile and as such. So we heard very quickly from the industry working group, and we tried to come up with a practical approach. So what we came up with is basically you have to have at least 100 feet around each facility. Space or distance between the facility and any other host material. And if the 100 feet is not possible, then we need to have a double wall between the facility and the host with 4-inch space in between. The whole idea, again, is to prevent Aedes citrus and other organisms from penetrating into the facility. Each facility will have to be inspected and ensuring that it would actually meet those objectives, safeguarding industry stock. And the facility has to have self-closing doors with operational positive air pressure. So basically, when you go in and out the facility, it would prevent the entry of Asian citruses. This is something that you all know, and you probably do know about it more than we do. But this is basically recommendations from the subject matter experts to help in preventing Asian citruses from entering the facility. Then inspection with respect to Asian citruses. Plants in the facility must be visually inspected every 30 days, and this is something will be done by state or federal officials. And using either sticky traps or vacuum suction or tapping. Plants in the facility also must be visually inspected and to ensure freedom from the pest. With respect to treatment, the plants must be treated every 30 days, at least every 30 days, but no more than 3 months, 90 days, with systemic insecticide. And then with a foliar treatment, no more than 10 days before shipment. I'm talking about now nursery establishments located within the Asian citrus psyllid quarantine areas. Those are the requirements. And interstate movement, again, must be subjected to at least 3 inspections to verify freedom from. So the question is, how long do you have to have the plant in enclosed structure? Well, ideally, you wanted to have it there the entire life and do those inspections. I'm going to stop here, but this is just very quickly the long-term strategy. We're not stopping here in terms of research and some of the things that we're working on to get solutions that would help in the long term in dealing with HLB. So I'll stop here and thank you.
We have 5 minutes for questions. Would you please stand, state your name and your affiliation if you have a question. Roger?
Thank you, Roger. You're absolutely right. What we're talking about here is movement of regulated articles, nursery stock, from quarantine area to outside quarantine area. If you're moving materials within the quarantine area, obviously, you don't have to follow those requirements. Self-closing door, the way I understand it, and I'm not a subject matter expert in this, is that basically when you walk through the door, it will close behind you. So it has a spring or some kind of mechanism that would allow the door be shut behind you as you go through the door, basically. Actually came out from a model that's been implemented in Florida, and as a safety mechanism, if you will, some workers can go through the facility, leaving the door open behind them, even though you have other systems in place, but would allow Asian citrus to enter. So that's basically where it came from.
Any more questions? Bob.
That just seems to be going away from your performance standard. Saying, how we keep Pest out, and then now you're saying, well, you're making it much more specific again. I just wondered why I went to that.
Yeah, and thank you for that. These are examples, and again, the overarching criteria here is that you come up with a system, performance-based, as you said, and when we come, our inspector comes out there and take a look at it, and if the establishment would meet the overarching objectives of preventing Asian citrus from entering the facility, then the facility will be certified. So while we give those examples, we make it very clear in the rule that it's performance-based concept.
Mark.
Mark Campbell, reporting breaches, the inspection, and then how are you going to deal with the breaches? I mean, your house, how are you going to make them significant, or how bad is it?
Thank you, Mark. And this is one of the things that we're going to have to learn together. So if there are breaches and have Asian citrus psyllids, then our risk assessors will come out your way and take a look at the situation. If it is just one Asian citrus psyllid and this just happened because of whatever reason, it's one thing. But if you find, multiple numbers of Asian citrus psyllids, it's another thing.
So, I mean, just holes in your system where
Right.
potentially you don't find a bug, but you have a hole, a breach. You must report that.
Yeah.
So if the bug's not even, present.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if the bug is not present, of course, this is going to be important information. But when our inspectors come out every 30 days for the survey, they will also look at the facility and see if there are any signs of potential breaches, and we'll talk with you about possible fixing those so we can avoid problem down the road.
Last question, Leonard.
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you. Again, in discussion with subject matter experts, what they're saying is, in addition to those enclosed structures, they felt, especially if you're moving nursery stock to another citrus producing area, they felt that this would be necessary to provide those additional safeguarding measures, treatment, both the systemic as well as the foliar. Now, this is that debate went on for quite a bit of time, extensively, and given the risk of HLV and the potential impact of this disease, the recommendations from subject matter experts is that we need to really take those kind of actions to make sure that we're providing adequate safeguarding measures.